wait.
As soon as I sit down, you can say stand up.
Shall we stand for our pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, good evening to everyone, and the meeting has been properly called to order. We will begin tonight with a public hearing. Mr. Greg Foster.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, Dr. Young. Tonight we're here for the consolidated public hearing regarding the proposed issuance of the 2024 general obligation bonds, Series A, B, and C, and the related additional appropriations. The purpose of a public hearing is to present information and allow for an opportunity of public comment. I will provide a brief overview of the projects of the proposed general obligations bonds. I will then introduce Mr. Jeff Quackenbush, our bond counsel with Barnes & Thornburg. Mr. Quackenbush will walk through the legal process and the need for the two related resolutions for each issuance in your packet. I will be presenting these resolutions as action items later this evening. Ms. Bellevue Gray, our municipal advisor with Baker Tilly, will provide a brief financials overview. In your packet, you'll find a list of the projects for the three proposed general obligation bonds. These capital improvements are necessary to maintain the district. They include bond number 1, Deer Run renovations, which include an interior refresh, roof and chillery replacement. Bond number 2, Snacks Crossing roof and facility improvements, which include interior refresh in the 3 middle schools. And bond 3, which is exterior facility upgrades. Now I'd like to introduce Mr. Jeff Quackenbush with our bond counsel.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Foster. Mr. Vice President, members of the board, Dr. Young, Jeff Quackenbush with Barnes & Thornburg. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening. First, before I give my presentation, I do want to just take liberty and congratulate you on your successful operating referendum. I know you worked very hard on that, and for you to win with the margin that you did, going through it the first time, is to be commendable. So you should be very proud of what you did there and the efforts you did there and how that's going to impact the school corporation for many years to come. So let me just congratulate you on that.
Thank you, Jeff.
So connection with the three resolutions and three projects that Mr. Foster talked about in your board packet, and then after the board meeting, if you so approve, you will need to sign these resolutions, are the three bond resolutions and the three additional appropriation resolutions. These are very similar to what you've done in previous years for similar type projects, so I won't go into great detail about those at this point in time, but just to say that those bond resolutions authorize the issuance of the bonds for the financial parameters that will be presented by Ms. Gray here in a minute, and then the appropriation resolutions then authorize you to spend the money and the bond proceeds for those projects once the bonds are issued. The timeline for doing this is that we publish the notice of the public hearing on May 31st. If you all approve the resolutions this evening, then we will publish a notice in the newspaper notifying the taxpayers that you've determined to issue those bonds. And then based on the project timeline, we anticipate actually selling the bonds sometime in September and closing in October. Some of the project will proceed prior to that, but you will take cash balance to fund those projects temporarily, and then you will reimburse yourself with bond proceeds once those bonds are issued like you've done in previous years. The other terms and conditions of the resolutions are very similar to what you've had in years prior to this. And once again, these are tax rate neutral. So because of the way Pike repays all of its debt, and as you'll hear more from Mrs. Gray here in a minute, you're able to take advantage of issuing all of these bond issues and doing these projects without increasing your debt service fund tax rate because of the way you pay off all your other bonds so quickly. So with that, I will be around during the action items to present any question or address any questions you may have at that point in time. But I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have regarding the bond resolutions, the additional appropriation resolutions, or the process at this point as well.
All right.
Hearing none, I will turn it over to Mrs. Gray.
Hi, good evening, Mr. Vice President, members of the
Good
board.
evening.
Dr. Young, good to see everyone this evening. My name is Belvia Gray. I'm a principal with Baker Tilly Municipal Advisors, and we serve as a school corporation's municipal advisor. And I'm also a Pike alum, which I always love coming to visit you guys. And I also love to see a room of students here who are going to be celebrated this evening. So I'm excited to hear all of that as well. So tonight, as has already been discussed, we'll be providing the financial information for the proposed borrowings. The first couple slides, I'm going to move it to slide 3 here, where it shows all of the school corporation's existing indebtedness. Pike has been able to issue bonds most every year to fund capital improvements throughout your district, and you can see that we have a stair-step down structure. That's the way that we've done the school corporation's debt for decades. And this provides a lot of opportunity to the school as additional capital projects are identified. You're able to bring them on and repay them very quickly. A bond can be repaid up to 20 years, and Pike normally pays its bonds less than 10, usually less than 7 or 8 years, and the bonds we're talking about tonight will actually be repaid in about 5 years. The other thing that's important is that these bonds are going to be issued as general obligation bonds, and every unit within the state of Indiana has a limit on how much it can issue in its own name. And the calculation for that amount of bonds is based upon the school corporation's most recent net assessed valuation. That includes all of the taxable property within the school corporation boundaries, and it's divided by 3 and multiplied by 2%. Those are numbers that have been established through our state constitution and state statute. Pike's most recent net assessed valuation is $6.3 billion. And we get to the $42.1 million. From that, we deduct out any existing indebtedness to get to a current limit of about $23.2 million. This slide shows a summary of the proposed financings. As Mr. Foster mentioned, we're looking at 3 series of bonds for the proposed projects at Deer Run, Snacks Crossing, and the middle schools, and then the exterior facilities and extracurricular upgrades. Our plan is to issue these later this year, and the borrowing amount of each of the bonds would be no more than $6.35 million. As I mentioned, we're planning to have the repayment be just over 5 years for each series of bonds, and the intent is for the payments and the tax rate rather to not exceed your current level. The interest rates that we use to calculate the overall interest expense are higher than today's market rates. We used a 5.5% amount within our documents. Today's rates are in the high 3s, 4%-ish range for that length of borrowing. This slide then pulls everything together. What's looking like the bluish bars from here represent your existing indebtedness, and then the other 3 bars represent the proposed repayment of the bonds. And then the black bar then represents the school's debt service tax rate. So you can see that we've created additional opportunity for the school to come back in the future as you identify future needs to make sure that you're keeping your facilities to the level at which you expect. That's all I have. Any questions from the board? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, somebody's ready to clap.
Mr. Vice President, as I mentioned, this is an opportunity to make public comments.
Can't hardly hear you, Mr.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
Please speak up, thank you.
As I mentioned, this is an opportunity for the public to make comment. If there are no more questions from the bond or legal process, the financial impact, I recommend that we make those this time available.
Are there any questions from the public? Board questions? No questions, then we will adjourn this part of our public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Foster. We're on to our regular MSD Pike Township School Board meeting for June 13th, 2024. Let me also state that our president tonight, Mr. Lonzo Anderson, once again, he's at work, first responder taking care of you and I, so we are setting in for him on tonight. First order is for the good of the cause. Is anyone that has anything that you'd like to share for the good of the cause? You can step up, state your name, take about 3 minutes, and share with us only if it's for the good of the cause. Do we have anyone? All right, we move on. No good of the cause. We move on to Spotlight on Pike. Sarah Dorsey.
Good evening. It's wonderful to see you all again.
Good evening.
Even though school's out, we still have a lot of wonderful things going on in Pike Township. As of this week, our academic and enrichment summer school programs are in full swing. In addition, we also have several wonderful sports camps scheduled to take place throughout the summer. Several of our schools are summer serving sites where anyone 18 and under can eat free breakfast and lunch. The dates, times, and locations are listed on our website, posted on our social media, and have been sent out to families via email. Today, our Lady Red Devils basketball team participated in the Indiana Basketball Coaches Association's Top 100 at Ben Davis High School. On Saturday, our Pike High School Lady Red Devils soccer team will be hosting a car wash fundraiser at Central Elementary School from 8:30 to 11:30 a.m. And last but never least, we would like to sincerely thank all of the generous donors listed on this evening's agenda, including the American Heart Association, the Guyan Creek Elementary School PTO, Ludus, and the Pike Township Educational Foundation.
Thank you, Ms. Dorsey. All right, next up is our reports to the board. Oasis of Recognition, Dr. Maggie Bishop and Mary McDonald.
Good evening, Mr. Vice President, members of
evening.
the board, Dr. Young. This evening, I have the pleasure of introducing Mrs. Mary McDonald, who will be recognizing Oasis this evening. We are blessed to have a wonderful relationship with them, and it is wonderful to be able to honor and recognize all of their work with our students. Mrs. Mary McDonald.
Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to tell about our wonderful program and to recognize our tutors with some significant years of service in Pike. We started in Pike in 1997. We're a national organization out of St. Louis, and in fact, the St. Louis director comes several times a year to visit with us. The idea behind our program is to help people over 50 work one-on-one with a student for 1 hour a week to help mentor them, help them with reading, communication, writing. They have journals. We have an 8-hour training program that I provide. I'm a retired first and third grade teacher here in Pike and have lived here, in fact, for about 45 years. But anyway, we have really had a wonderful program, and we appreciate so much all of your support, our wonderful room at Eastbrook. And I have 3 tutors to recognized today, and we'll call them up. But besides these 3, I want to mention that besides these 3 with 5 years, we have 5 more. We have 11 who have more than 5 years. We have 5 who have more than 10 years. And we have 3 who have been in our program for more than 15 years. That's a lot of students that we've been able to give some one-on-one encouragement, reading abilities, just all kinds of good things. And we and the tutors love it as much as the kids and the teachers. So the assistant principals help us with identifying and placing the kids, which is great too. We had 69 before COVID. We went down to 20. Now we're back up to 47. And they work with over 60 students, because many work with more than, they'll take a second or a third student. So we're very proud of our program and proud to be in Pike, and that the support that you give us. But I'd like to call Sandra, Susan, and Michael up so I can recognize them.
Yeah.
we also have a lot of fun, so just so you know that. Michael has been at Eastbrook for 5 years. Michael Mackey has been at Eastbrook for 5 years and works with a third grader, correct? Each time. Comes on Wednesdays, also helps me clean up for my meetings and is a great help in the group. And we have 2 other people here. We have 2 people here also, one from Snacks and one from Guyan Creek, and that's just really wonderful. Sandra Richardson is from Guyan Creek Elementary, and she missed our coffee, so she gets a starfish, which may have fallen out of the thing.
Oh, that's okay.
I've got more.
Okay.
And then Susan Richardson is at Snacks Crossing. So we're in every elementary school, but these 5 have been with us for 5 years, so we are congratulating them. Thank you.
Thank you. Where do you want to? Okay.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Beautiful. Thank you so much.
All right, we are now ready for our spring sports recognition. Dr. Justin Hunter.
Mr. Vice President, members of the board, and Dr. Young, today we gather here to recognize and celebrate the exceptional achievements of our spring sport athletes. It is my honor to introduce the athletic directors of our schools, who will in turn introduce the remarkable student athletes they have nurtured and supported. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Blake Arnett, the athletic director from New Augusta North Public Academy, who will now introduce the exceptional student athletes from New Augusta North Public Academy.
Good evening, Mr. Vice President, members of the board, and Dr. Young. Thank you guys for allowing us to come and recognize our girls track team this evening. At this time, I'm going to introduce Coach Chestnut to just talk about their remarkable season.
Good evening, Mr. Vice President, members of the board, and Dr. Young. Thank you for having us today. My name is Coach Chestnut. I'm the head girls coach for New Augusta North Public Academy. Here we are again. Third time is a charm. Supported and nurtured 100% by dedicated coaches, our AD, Mr. Arnett, Coach Graves, Coach Jones, Coach Livingston, Coach Mac Tolbert, Coach Burchett, and Coach Hooks Cockrum, and myself. Our season started off with our first meeting ending with a strong win versus a steady rival and fierce competitor in a 2A meet. And then we won the next 4. One meet was 40 degrees and pouring rain, and we still had no complaints and 4 PRs. We are a very strong team, and these young ladies have demonstrated continuously strong leadership, trust, and willingness to follow our lead and become a force to be reckoned with. Napa has supportive and compassionate teammates who will dig deep and fight for each other. That is why we win. We won our district meet, the MIC, Marion County, and ultimately rose to the occasion once again, not without multiple shocks and challenges, but with strong mental toughness to win down in Terre Haute at Indiana State University for the 3rd time, Middle State track and field champions. It was quite a journey. And friends and family of MDS Pike Township Schools, we are here to partially today to congratulate New Augusta North Public Academy for an unprecedented, undefeated season, as well as back-to-back wins at the Indiana State Championship, titles for our New Augusta girls.
At this time, we will recognize our athletes. First, the middle school state champion shot put thrower, Rachel Adolfi. Gabby Bellamy. Layla Dahlstrom. Lillian Dahlstrom. Demaya Downing. Lainey Gornick. .200-meter hurdle state champion Jamie Hodge. Kalia Ingram. Jolie Johnson. Trinity Lawrence Russell. Anivia Ransom. Tabitha Reed. Kennedy Riggins. Madison Riggins. Sydney Shepard. Courtney Taylor. De'Ara Trotter. Jada Walker. Zaylee Crowder. Peace Akinlanu. Our last recognition for this evening, I know this young man is not feeling well and not able to make it tonight, but Cameron Berry won the state championship in the 100 and 200 meter sprints. Thank you.
Mr. Vice President, members of the board, Dr. Young. Finally, I would like to invite Ms. Kendra Champion-McAloon, co-athletic director from Pike High School, to introduce the phenomenal spring sports student athletes that have represented their school with pride and passion. Ms. McAloon.
Good evening, Mr. Vice President, members of the board, Dr. Young. Thank you once again for the opportunity to recognize these student athletes in this public forum. I think it's incredibly important for everyone to see and hear what they've all been able to accomplish. Kudos to that girls' track team. That's pretty incredible, 3 years in a row. We're excited to have them at the high school. We had another great spring season. It was a wet one, and we had a lot of stuff canceled and rescheduled. So shout out to the parents and athletes who managed all of that. You guys are awesome. I do want to give a quick shout out and thank you to the parents just for all that you do to make it possible for the athletes to do what they do. We could not do it without you, and I want to make sure you know we know that. So thank you. We have members of all 6 of our spring teams who are going to be honored here this evening. So without further ado, I'm going to do the first 3 because we had some coaches who couldn't be here. So we will start with baseball. Our baseball players we're going to recognize this evening. First up is Griffin Gear, All Conference. Rory Weaver, All Conference. And Jim Quell, LJ Young, who is All Conference and first team All Marion County. And as they take their photo, I think it's important to recognize that our athletes go up against the best in the state every time they compete. So to be all conference and all county is pretty incredible. All right, next up, we've got boys golf. We have one golfer to recognize this evening. I'm so incredibly proud of this young man. He is a sophomore. He earned several honors last year as a freshman, and he's back here tonight. All conference, all county. He advanced to the regional where he golfed, represented Pike High School at the golf regional this year and last year. Incredibly awesome. Please welcome Kellen Eder. Next up, we have boys track and field. There are several boys track and field members on our list this evening. Majority of these kiddos were all sectional, meaning they advanced to the regional out of the sectional. We had the opportunity to host both of those meets at Pike High School this year, so that was pretty special. I'm going to call them up here. Eric Anderson. Simon Boslett. Chris Boyd. Artez Butler Sanders. Ryder Daisy. Dyrese Elliott. James Garland. Josiah Green. Jude Hawkins. Kyron Hawkins. Francis Houlihan. Grant Myers. Sean Nash. And I'm going to pause before I call this last one up. This last one here, all sectional, all regional, a MIC champion. incredible athlete. He qualified for the state finals this year. It was awesome to get to watch him run down in Bloomington in the pouring down rain. And he is coming back next year, just a junior, Matthias Smith. Next, I would like to welcome our head softball coach to recognize his athletes, Andy Lawrence.
Good evening, Mr. Vice President, members of the board, and Dr. Young. We had a quality season, my first at the helm, and we have two athletes that we'd like to honor this evening. First, one of our senior leaders, Lucy Tebow. Lucy is all-conference in the MIC. She's also all-county and all-state academic. Second athlete, sophomore Liliana Richardson, our catcher. She is all-conference in the MIC and honorable mention all-county. As a sophomore, we'll expect a lot more from her in the next 2 years. Thank you.
Next, I would like to welcome our head girls tennis coach, Coach Josh Villafuerte.
Good evening, Mr. Vice President, members of the board, and Dr. Young. Tonight we're recognizing 3 athletes for girls tennis. First could not be here today is Jenna Heimlich. She earned Indiana Academic All-State. Secondly, she could not be here tonight, but Nia Mathis. She earned All-County. This is times 3 years, All-County, All-Conference, All-District, All-State. And this past weekend, she competed in the Indiana All-Stars. If you ever got a chance to see her play, you know that she was a phenomenal player, and we were really blessed to have her. And our third athlete tonight is Hannah Castellon Perez, who is earning Indiana Academic All-State and also Pike High School's salutatorian.
Wow.
Finally, we would like to welcome our girls track and field head coach, Mr. Lance Garvin.
Good evening, Mr. Vice President, members of the board, Dr. Young. My name is Coach Lance Garvin, and this was my first year as the girls head track coach, and I want to publicly thank the girls and the parents for making this a very smooth first year. Of the 30 girls that I'm going to call up, they've either all conference, all county, all sectional, all regional, or state qualifiers as well. 20 of those 30 are freshmen or sophomores. I want to specifically call out the 4x4 team that made it to the state meet: Genesis Boyd, Gia Clay, Genesis Davis, Yasmin Lambert, Micaiah Nance, Brooklyn Taylor. In addition, Jay Brown made it to the state meet in the 100-meter hurdles as a freshman and finished 11th. And Gia Clay made it to the state meet in the 200 and 400. She placed 9th in the 200, and she was runner-up in the 400. Genesis Boyd will be continuing on at St. Mary of the Woods, and Gia Clay will be continuing on at Purdue University. All right, ladies, as I call your name, come up. Malia Abbas, Kaylee Applewhite, Genesis Boyd, Jay Brown, Gia Clay, Genesis Davis, Katie DeKine, Charlotte Dolson, Nadia Figures, Madeline Fishback, London Joseph, Kamiley King, Amina King, Yasmin Lambert, Melva Minor, Midori Mutton, Micaiah Nance, Corinne Nicholson, Precious Oladaisi, Jamani Robinson, Arafat Salami, Kaimora Sanders, Rachel Schwab, Dorian Stone, Georgia Suchecki, Brooklyn Taylor, Janiyah Tyler, Anna Velasquez, Dominique Walton, and Skya Williams. And while those seniors that are leaving us had a great impact, we only lose 3 people total on that list.
Once again, thank you very much for the opportunity to recognize these student athletes. Special thanks to Dr. Hunter and Ms. Floyd for putting this together for us.
All right, we are now continuing on to our action items for the evening. First up is action item A, minutes of approval of our last board meeting, May 23rd. Motion is in order.
I move we accept the minutes as written.
Second.
It's been moved and second that we accept our minutes. Any questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, next up is approval of the Board of Education bylaws and policies. And also, we want to go ahead and do action item C. Dr. Bishop.
Good evening, Mr. Vice President, members of the board, and Dr. Young. This evening, I seek your approval of action item B, approval of the Board of Education bylaws and policies, and action item C, 2024-2025 student family handbooks as presented.
A motion is now in order.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and second that we accept action items B and C as presented by Dr. Maggie Bishop. Are there any questions at this time on action items B or C? There are no questions. We're on to vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you, Dr. Bishop.
Thank you.
Action item D, Human Resources Report, Dr. Justin Hunter.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Vice President, members of the board, Dr. Young, I ask that you approve the Human Resource Report as presented.
So moved.
Second. And due to the nature of the confidentiality of Human Resource Report, we do not entertain questions. So we're on the vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you, Dr. Hunter, for
Thank you, sir.
that. Next up is action items E, F, Mr. Gruber.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. President, or Mr. Vice President, members of the board, and Dr. Young. I'm seeking your approval for actions item E and F as presented.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second that we accept action items E and F as presented. Are there any questions on action item E or F?
I do, Mr. Vice President.
Action item,
Mr. Gruber, the warranty idea of this, how do you think is going to be a good warranty?
Yeah, typically with HVAC equipment, you build in a 1-year maintenance plan and a 2-year warranty on all mechanicals. That's pretty much industry standard.
Okay. I was wondering because things have changed since COVID.
Yeah.
Thank you.
all right. Are there any other questions? No other questions, then we're on to vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gruber. On action item G, this is our resolution for our public hearing. Mr. Greg Foster.
Good evening, Mr. Vice President.
Good
Members
evening.
of the board, Dr. Young. I recommend your approval as presented for item G, the bond resolutions. I recommend approval as presented.
I move we accept action item G as presented.
Second.
Been moved and second that we accept action item G as presented by Mr. Greg Foster. Are there any questions? Okay, we're on the vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you, Mr. Foster. And then action items H, I, and J. Mr. Foster.
Good evening, Vice President, Mr. Vice President, members of the board, Dr. Young. I recommend approval of items H, I, and J. They include the contracts, declaration of surplus, and the donations. I recommend approval as presented.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second that we accept action item H, I, and J as presented. Are there any questions on either? And please identify the action item if you have a question. No question, we're on the vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
And
Vice
we're
President.
on to board member items. Dr. Moore.
Thank you, President. I have nothing this afternoon.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Lomax.
Good evening.
Good evening.
And I'm going to say a great congratulations to all of our student athletes and their parents. You know, this is another one of those nights that just make us so Pike proud. And I do have my regrets and apologies. I was not at graduation, but my nephew was graduating in Texas Ranger Stadium, and so that is why I was not there. But, you know, I see the pictures, and congratulations to all of our Pike grads and their parents as well. And thank you to all of the donors.
Thank you, Ms. Lomax. Mrs. Barnes?
It was my pleasure to attend the Westside Chamber of Commerce meeting where Tony Harrell, Associate Commissioner for K-12 Strategy and State Director for Career and Technical Education, CTE, spoke about the direction of education. I gained information and insight from him and local business owners about critical needs in our community. I was glad to know that Pike High School is already moving in that direction with our career offerings. I'm looking forward to see how we will continue to equip our students for the careers that are needed here in our community, in our country, in our state, and most definitely in our world. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Barnes. Dr. Hobb?
Nothing for me tonight, sir.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Kelly?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hope everyone is enjoying this brief respite of having students on campus and taking time to recharge and refresh, because this time is precious and is fleeting. So hoping everyone is taking some time to rest and getting to see family and just recharging for the fall.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Congratulations to the student athletes as well, and thank you to the donors that have so generously given to our teachers and students.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. Dr. Young?
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I just want to share that myself, many of the individuals here as part of the cabinet had an opportunity to attend the annual Pike Township Educational Foundation golf outing today. There were a lot of golfers, so I'm hoping that there was a lot of money that has been raised that can then be turned around and given back to our students and our teachers. So a big thank you to our Educational Foundation for putting that event on. I know that there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes. There's a lot of work that goes on during the day, but that's just one of the events that they do annually so they can give money back to our students and our teachers. So thank you, and seemed like a great event. So looking forward to see the results of that. And I echo congratulations to our athletes, and I'm just really appreciative to our coaches and also our athletic directors to make sure that those experiences are experiences that are positive for our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Young. Again, we are planning our second board retreat, and that is June the 27th. So I want to continue to remind board members that all your items of concern are due, I think, tomorrow from the president as he finalizes our agenda for our board retreat. And stay warm. Is heading into a hot next few days, and so we hope everyone stays warm. And as always, say something nice, say something kind to someone in this real tension of society that we live in. Your words may be the loving words that talk someone else off the bridge. Board, we have a signing down here of a bunch of forms shortly after our dismissal. Nothing else? Oh, thank you. Y'all want to say something about that? Okay, actually, thank you for reminding me. And that's going to show you. Listen, y'all, happy Father's Day to all of you. Thank you, ladies, for reminding us of that. Enjoy your Father's Day. We only get one day, so enjoy it. All right, thank you. Meeting adjourned.